Welcome to Salestrategy, a podcast about sales, business and strategy, brought to you by Manzaneque.com. So welcome to Salestrategy, and it's great to be surrounded by really nice business owners and entrepreneurs. I'm going to tell you which of them are with me today. We've got Lina Grüebler. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
And you come from Germany originally?
Right.
Fantastic. And we've got also Jessica Baker, and you come originally from Ireland, but you are probably more Malagueña than I am.
I possibly am. Probably more Spanish than you are. Probably took more time than you have in the last 10 years.
So what is the most Malagueña thing that you can say?
Oh, there's a good one. And probably not for this time of the day.
Oh, yeah. Especially after a long day. I learned one which is taperita, which basically means in here, it's special, it's good, it's fantastic, it's great. And it's like to be a pair, like little pair. But there you go, little things. We also have Lucy. You are also Malagueña now. You've been adopted here. And
yeah.
Lucy Mackovà from Slovakia originally.
Yes.
Whereabouts in Slovakia?
The east part of Slovakia.
Fantastic.
Near High.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Valentina Liski. You come originally from Estonia, I understand?
Yes, but I spent more time of my life in Finland.
So how many languages do you guys speak each?
I fluently, another 4 not so fluently.
So Valentina, 4 languages. I don't like you anymore. And Lina, how many languages do you speak?
Born and raised with 2. Well, not born, but raised with 2.
That's great.
Struggling with the Spanish, but yeah.
And Lucy, how many languages do you speak?
Well, raised with 2, and then a very rusty German, and I can understand very well Czech people, because languages are very similar, and I can understand also Polish people. Understand more. Speak, I would say, then 3.
Very impressive. Jessica?
Well, I speak 2 languages, but I speak Spanish really well, so I count that as like 4.
That counts double for some reason. Okay. Like it. So we're here because we are all have something in common. We are entrepreneurs, we have businesses, we come from different origins. We have been expats, or we are expats. We all have been in different trades. We've done so many different things. So maybe we can do a little bit of a round, because I think that's quite inspiring to see perspective from people from very different business backgrounds and professional backgrounds. So if we begin, for example, with Lina, and what is your training, your area of expertise, where is your passion, and what made you to decide, okay, I'm going to fly solo?
I think I'm going to give you a very quick roundup right from the beginning, because I think it actually influenced where I am now. So I'm literally a world nomad thanks to my parents and my dad's job. So I was born in India, raised in Pakistan and Malaysia. Then I went to school in Germany for a while, but also in Australia and California, and then went to Berlin to start working, and then I guess that took me to London, and then back to Berlin, and then kind of on my entrepreneurial track to Spain, to Malaga. But on this side, in that time, I guess I studied fashion management, which again is a very global industry, and I think that's one reason that I kind of went into that, and it was easier to study than interior architecture. So I now do interior design on a detour through. After university, I went into online marketing, sales, kind of anything to do with the digital world, the digitalization. And that took me into the field of interior design, architecture, and everything. And it kind of helped me understand the whole marketing side and the sales side. And I guess whatever every company, no matter the business, like you can have the best business if you don't let people know what you do. No one's going to know, and no one's going to be able to be your client. So that was very helpful in terms of grasping that side of the business, which is essential to whatever you want to do on your own, and then being able to gather so much information from other architects, interior designers, interior architects, anyone basically in that industry, so that 2 years ago I quit my corporate job and I decided to finally have enough courage to kind of try and do it on my own. It's been a very, I think, courageous path, but very rewarding at the same time, and I guess we'll go into the benefits and hardships of
Absolutely. And I will ask you later how easy or difficult it is to be an entrepreneur or a business owner in Germany, opposite to Spain or any other places.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And Valentina, how has your journey been?
So my background is biochemical engineer, and I worked in mining for a good 9 years. And currently I work as body worker, so I work with chronic pain. And my journey came through health solutions for myself, basically burnout and finding more freedom. And now my year is something that I couldn't do before. I can follow the sun and still do what I love doing, help people to relieve chronic pain. So that's my story.
That's great to hear. And what is your journey, Jessica? You come from Dublin originally?
I do. I come from Dublin. I was born and raised in Dublin, and when I was finishing school, I wanted to study law. I didn't get the points in my exams for my law degree, so I went on to study political science and Spanish language and literature. And during my degree, I decided I'd go to Spain to perfect my Spanish, well, really to learn it, because I wasn't great at going to class in university. So I went to Spain when I was 20 to learn Spanish, and I learned really, really well. And I loved Spain, so I stayed for 4 years. I built a business in teaching English before I actually realized that I didn't really like teaching English. So I decided to go home and regroup a little bit. While I was at home, and that was during kind of after the economic crisis in 2012, 2013, and there wasn't a lot of work, and everyone said, you won't get a job. Of course you get a job. If you want a job, you'll get a job. And I started working for the Argentine embassy as the ambassador's PA, which brought into it my language skills,
We're getting a bit of connection issues there. Hopefully we're going to get you back. But it's great to see how you managed to improve those skills. No, we don't have you back yet. No worries. We're going to move on to Lucy while we recover the communication with Jessica.
And my question would be the same, right? Basically, my origins probably would date back when I was 4. And I remember my mom teaching me English in our kitchen. I still have the book. Actually, got it there. And we were learning words and songs, and basically somehow my mom made me very curious about all other cultures out there and languages and people differently and celebrating things differently. And my dad works as a truck driver. And well, this was before the European Union. So every time when he came back home from his trip, he would show me banknotes from all these different countries. And sometimes he would just place them on the table and ask me like, okay, this banknote, where is it from? And this coin and that coin. And he would tell me stories when he would park his truck and meet different people, and he would have to try to find a way how to communicate with them. And I think that that's understood that my life could not, like all of it, could not happen only in Slovakia. Started traveling, and my parents applauded that. They always tried to find a way how they could send me at least during summer holidays somewhere. So yeah, I traveled a bit, went to Germany twice, and to America to visit my godmother. So thanks to English, I was able to reconnect with our family in America, and then I got invited to go there. So I spent a month there. That was really cool. And then somehow it just, I don't know, like every time I saw somebody from abroad or I heard a different language, I would run towards them. So just to, to ask things like basic things like where are you from, and say something in your language, and I just loved it. And well, that's how I met my boyfriend. He came to Slovakia for his Erasmus, and well, typical story.
It happened.
After that, I tried to go to Spain. So I went actually to Jaén. I was an Erasmus student at the University of Jaén, and then basically I came to Malaga in 2011. And well, it was a very hard year for everybody in Malaga. So had to leave. I went to Scotland where I did my master's degree in English. And then we moved to Barcelona where we lived for almost 6 years. And now we're back in Malaga, and yeah, I'm loving it here. I think that there is no place than Malaga.
What a journey. And it kind of brings to mind what my own experience, because I've been traveling all over the place as well. And I've been an expat in the UK, and it's so different when you realize that all the different perspectives and approaches to everything, to live and to work and to start a business. What is the greatest pain in the ass of being an entrepreneur for you? If we can say this at this time, what is the greatest pain? Let's see from Valentina, Liski. What is the biggest challenge in your opinion?
My biggest pain is that all governments require you to have a fixed address in order to organize any legal paperwork. And I'm really hoping that some sort of virtual address is going to be developed with chain, like blockchain, whichever solution, just something that doesn't need to be in a specific country, in a specific place.
Because you have a very unique approach as well to business, or maybe this comes with this nomad entrepreneurial mind. Basically, you work whenever you want and in any place. You've been away for a few months in different projects. What is your approach to that?
Yes, so I basically had to find a place where I have a fixed address for legal purposes, and I had to find a place where I pay taxation. And these are currently Finland is my fixed address for mail purposes, and Spain is my tax payment country. But otherwise, my address keeps changing, and there are solutions for that.
Fair enough, fantastic. And Lina, what is your experience? Because you work actually not just as an interior designer, because you've got a different background, but this is where your passion is. And how do you approach this whole nomad entrepreneur life?
I think it's challenging because obviously interior design, it's you talk about spaces, like physical spaces, and as much as you can do online consultations and you can talk to people and get to know people and their needs and their wishes and kind of, I guess, design style nowadays, it's so global, and there's the same kind of styles and I guess requirements for a home throughout the world. Of course, there's differences in the different countries and the different cultures, but at the end of the day, it's always about finding out, what the individual person is looking for in their home. And it's always nicer to be, face to face with someone and to be able to like touch textiles and show colors and see how the light comes in. But at the end of the day, it's nice because it means that usually I get to travel a lot, and I really appreciate that. Also, coming from my background of having lived in lots of different places, it does keep me connected, and it keeps my mind kind of fresh and open, not just to kind of be in one creative space. At the same time, I think that the biggest challenge as well was like setting up my business was like, am I going to set it up in Germany? Do I set it up in Spain? Because like, I haven't fallen in love with Spain and the sunshine and all these other things I could list. I think it's a great space to work, especially nowadays where you can do, part of my work is remote and is online, part of my work is local and physical. So I think being able to have that balance nowadays, that's so beneficial, and we really need to make the most use of the opportunities we're given.
So that sounds all very positive, and I really like it. But what is the worst part of it? What is the biggest challenge of this kind of entrepreneur life?
I think staying on top of things and just really focusing on like one thing at a time. I think any entrepreneur, I constantly have like millions of other ideas that I could, set up as a side hustle, or like different projects that I could take on, or like things that really spark my interest. Not getting lost in like these hundreds of different opportunities, but actually being like, okay, I like these 5 things. I'm going to start with this one and then do one after another. Otherwise, you're just going to get lost, and I still struggle sometimes. I still sometimes get lost, but I think, it's good to be open-minded, but definitely having to focus more and really decide, okay, I'm going to do one thing at a time to actually get anything done. I think that's my personal biggest challenge.
Wow. Can I ask a really rude question?
Go for it.
How old are you?
I am 32.
Fair enough.
I do think age is just a number, and
of course it is.
Always what you make it. I'm meeting people that are like in their early 20s who seem to have like life figured out, and I'm like, when I was 20, I was like, am I studying the right thing? And then at the same time, I meet like 40, 50-year-old entrepreneurs who are like rediscovering their life and like just. And you think like, okay, the 20-year-old seems like they're 50 and the 50-year-old seems like they're 20. So, I genuinely believe that life is what you make it. And I just feel like every connection I make and every person I meet just can really bring value to the way I see the world and what I can learn and kind of pass on to other people. So
that's a great approach. Very inspiring, by the way. The reason I was asking is because there's this thing with generations. And this Generation Z and Generation Alpha, about the lack of focus. You didn't strike me like the youngish or super youngish, like early 20 or on your teens. But apparently for those newer generations, focus is a massive issue, massive problem. But we are all challenged in terms of focus. So I agree that is probably one of the biggest things. Because everybody, all those notifications we get on our devices are really making it difficult to concentrate. So that's a very valid one. And Jessica, we lost the connection for a little bit, but we are dying to hear from you. Let's unmute you to make sure that we can make the best of you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. Now I'm sitting on my stairs. So you're going to see various parts of my house with my phone.
Beautiful. Very posh.
Very posh. We have stairs. So the question is, what are the challenges surrounded by going solo, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so for me, going solo actually was never in my plans, either as a student or it just was never something that was particularly important to me. When I moved to Malaga, my plan was to stick with the events realm because it's what I really, really loved doing, where I was working in Dublin. And there was kind of nothing around that I really loved. It was all there's a lot of wedding planners and a lot of that kind of thing, but there was nothing kind of corporate, which is what I really quite enjoyed. I liked the formal element to what I was doing back in Dublin. So one of the challenges that I've come across in setting up a corporate events company is that people don't associate Malaga with business. They associate it with fun. They associate it with hen parties, with weddings, with stag parties. They associate it with leaving their job for a week. So
that's super interesting.
Definitely been a challenge, because people think more of a work trip to Barcelona or a work trip to Madrid, which I'm all for, but I really think that Malaga has a lot to offer from a work perspective. It doesn't have to be all fun and no work.
I love that.
That's probably the biggest challenge that we have at the moment.
And it's funny that you point that as one of the main challenges in your industry, bringing people for corporate events to Malaga, because I know of some people in the I would say at Malaga town hall, particularly would feel extremely disappointed because they are throwing shitloads of money into trying to clean that image that we just sun and beach and fun, and trying to attract all these congresses, and little by little they are filling those congresses, but still
little by little it is working. But
I
think a lot of it is definitely national rather than international.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's room for improvement. It's great to hear, because that means that there's a lot that can be done. At the same time, is a challenge for you, obviously.
Absolutely.
And Lucy, what is your biggest challenge? You are in the teaching industry, so you are providing services for companies mainly, for language skills. How are you finding the entrepreneurial life?
Well, I would say that there are two aspects of it for me. The first one is the paperwork. So just even like becoming an entrepreneur in Spain is an adventure, especially because I'm that kind of a person that if I can do it myself, I'll do it myself. So of course when I wanted to do the paperwork, I wanted to do it by myself, and it was quite confusing, especially the fact that you have to do both the paperwork for Tesorería and for Seguridad Social in the same day. So, like you're running from one place to another, and then basically they told me that I had to do it online. And the paperwork was written, well, to me it seemed that it was written in Chinese, because I was trying to read all those windows and information, and I even called my sister-in-law, and she's an economist, and she had no idea what I was reading out to her. So that was the first tricky part, and I felt really exhausted at the end of the day. And the second aspect, and probably you will agree with me, is that once you work for yourself, it's just narrows down to you. So when I used to work in academies or in a school, there was always somebody around me, some other teacher, and I could ask him or her his opinion, or I could ask for some advice. And during the first year of my self-employment, it was just me. So I could feel that slowly but surely I was losing steam, because there was no energy around me. It was just my energy, and I was running out of it. And I tried to speak to other teachers, but most of the teachers are employed by somebody, so they don't feel this kind of pressure or need to be super extra creative or to go out there and, like get new clients or whatever. So it was really, really hard, and it is still hard. And well, that's one of the reasons why I joined the club, because I needed to change the energy around me, or I needed maybe somebody else to recharge my batteries a bit, to give me that creativity or something positive, and to be able to consult and learn from other people. Because if it's just you, no matter how much you try, there are still certain limitations to that.
Absolutely. And just to clarify, for those of you who listen, Lucy Mackovà is referring to BTB Club, which is a networking group where we work together, which is fantastic. And you describe it really well, I think, the loneliness that we could feel as entrepreneurs, especially if you're a nomad entrepreneur and you don't have a physical space where you rub shoulders with different people on a daily basis. It can feel really lonely, and that can drain your energy, as you really well described. So those are some of the downsides. And the reason, I don't want to focus too much on the negative, but let's be realistic. Being an entrepreneur sucks in so many levels. It's difficult. It is, isn't it? It's great, and there's one particular reason why we are entrepreneurs. But I'm saying this because in the face of any crisis, and especially with this last one that has to do with COVID-19, the scenario is changing. And that's changing for people that are right now employed or have been employed. And over the coming months and potentially years, loads of works are going to be lost in a way. And people are going to have a very tough choice. They're going to be between a rock and a hard place in a way. Because either there's a miracle in their lives and they keep on waiting for that miracle to happen, and then they keep on impoverishing themselves, or they own it and they become entrepreneurs, and then they face these additional challenges. So I'm going to kind of put it out there for you guys to tell me, what do you think? For those people that might be listening, and maybe they are salespeople, maybe they are professionals that are so used to being employed by someone, what would you tell them when they are entertaining the idea, should I go solo? Should I become an entrepreneur? Should I try to be the master of my own destiny, the captain of my own ship in a way? What would you say? Valentina, Liski, please.
Thank you. I like to refer to Anti-Fragility book by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, where he gives this example of corporate employee versus tax driver. And that's how I feel my previous engineering job versus current body worker job. Yes, I had a higher income, basically twofold compared to what I'm earning right now. Yes, I had stability, receiving paycheck to paycheck, which in a way made me lazy and compliant to that stability, just stopped my mind from working. And that place in mind was filled with fear of losing that job. And when I went solo, there was a month about to accustom to lower income. There was some time also to go through the spheres, and now coming to this crisis or change, whatever is happening right now, I don't feel that fear, and I'm ever grateful for the entrepreneur not to have fear.
Wow, that's very inspiring, because you're describing probably a nightmare for a person that values certainty to a very high level and is used to work for somebody else for years maybe. But that's the dream for a person that is very creative and as you mentioned, that values very much to exercise their skills and to grow and to move forward. And I want also to have your opinion, Jessica, in this, because you've worked with many entrepreneurs as well, with many different people, both in Spain and in your own country, in Ireland. How do you see that? Is anyone potentially able to become an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. I think as long as you have your ideas very clear, and as long as you know when to start and when to stop. Okay, and I'd say that what I mean by that is, before I went solo, I've always been an employee, and I waited until I was very sure that everything was working for me on a financial level, because I'm not a risk taker by nature. It's not in my nature. So I waited until I was very sure that everything was going correctly and going according to plan before I took the leap and said, right, I'm going solo. And then I think you also need to know when to stop. So if your idea doesn't work, pivot. If it doesn't work again, pivot again. Look for help. Ask for help. There's always people that can help you, that can give you a second set of eyes, that can give you a second set of ears. Use those people that are around you. And if it really, really doesn't work, don't work yourself to the bone. Don't kill yourself. Just stop and regroup and start again. You don't have to kill yourself trying to make one idea work. And I see that happen a lot. So there are people that have worked years and years and years. They've gone bankrupt. They've driven themselves, financially to ruin, trying to make something work that just doesn't work. And I think it's okay to say it didn't work.
I love that concept. There's this book by Robert Cialdini about influence, and one of the laws of influence that he describes, or the principles of influence, is consistency. We hate to be inconsistent, and some other people can use that to sell to us. But applied to entrepreneurship, if you are too afraid of being inconsistent, what is my family going to say? What are my friends going to say? What are people out there going to say if I change industry? Of course.
I'm also going to put in an edit here, because it's very easy for me to say I don't have children, I don't have those kinds of responsibilities. So I'm, and I also have a separate project to my event planning project. I have an admin I work with admin and expats, which is still working. So it's very easy to kind of say what I just said, but I have a few different bases covered, and I also don't have the same responsibilities as others might have. So that's important to note.
But having said that, some people are sitting their arses, if we could pardon my French, but they are just not really proactive in the face of the same situations. But you're doing several businesses, so you have different business hats on. So obviously you have a very proactive attitude to it. Where do you think that comes from, and how could one promote or how could I say that, to cultivate that entrepreneurial mindset? Are you born with it, or can you actually work on it?
No, I don't think you're born with it, but I definitely think it comes from the way you're brought up. My mother always said to us that she would pay for all of our education. And she did. She paid for every single cent of my books, my tuition, right from school up until university. And do you know what? If I was still in university, she'd probably still pay for it. But when I started university, she said, there's your tuition paid for. Now, how you get there is not my problem. Why you eat while you're there is not my problem. So I had to work. And I had to balance my studies, passing exams, doing projects, and working. And I've always worked. I've worked since I was 16. And I think that work-life fun balance from when you're very young, if it's really something that's drilled into you, is something that will make you a good entrepreneur.
Right. So maybe what you're saying is that it's something that you either have been instilled as a value, or you're not.
Yeah, I think so.
Fair enough. I like that. But I can sense also that Lina Grüebler has some feedback to give us there. What is your thought on that?
Well, on one hand, I absolutely agree, because I also started working relatively early, even if it was kind of just tutoring for younger children with, English in Germany, or, working in, odd jobs just to kind of make some extra cash on the side. Or I turned a crafting hobby into my first unofficial business when I was in my early 20s. At the same time, I think the main reason for me to actually transition from working in the corporate world to being an entrepreneur is that I always gave my heart and soul to any company that I worked for. And I worked for a lot of startups that I have seen fail for not their fault. And I've seen companies fail for their own fault, and then you work in big companies and you're just a number and you are replaceable. And I think a lot of people, your managers don't tell you that. Nobody tells you that. They always expect you to do your best. And then, especially in Germany, I think there are people who have that expectation of themselves that, if I'm going to do this job, I'm going to give my best. At the end of the day, unfortunately, I always felt like I'm giving my best to something that isn't mine. So I always had this dream where I was like, okay, if I'm going to do something, like I want to be able to, I feel like the reason to be an entrepreneur is because you have the rewards, you reap the rewards. Everything you do for yourself. And there's no bigger investment than you can do in yourself. It might sound selfish, but also down the line, like, I would dream of being that manager that actually is a good manager, that is a good boss, that allows people to have a good work-life balance. And maybe that's just a dream for now, but I think that was one reason why I kind of decided to quit the corporate world, is to really do something for not anyone else's benefit other than mine, maybe. I don't know.
That's a very valuable point, and I really enjoy that thought that you mentioned. I can't remember who said something on those lines. If you don't work for your own dream, you will find yourself working for the rest of your life on somebody else's dream or making it happen for somebody else. And it's so true. And Lucy, what do you think? Do you think that is something that is trainable? In your experience, are you finding it that you either are cut for the entrepreneur life or you're not? Or what is your view?
I've got really mixed feelings when it comes to this, because I come from a family that basically didn't have any aspirations when it comes to business world. My parents did try to have a video shop, but I was very, very small, so I don't really remember, but I have this feeling that it didn't last it for very long. I don't remember if it was the fault of my parents or it was just the situation or whatever. But basically, my parents have always worked for somebody. And we didn't really have any business discussions. We didn't even discuss politics. So for me, all of this is completely new. And I suppose that's one of the reasons why I keep doubting myself so much. Because there's no reference point, there isn't anything, So basically, when I kind of started feeling that, working for somebody was not an option anymore, I turned to books, I turned to podcasts, to basically whatever. And this is one of the things that I try to communicate to my clients too. English can open so many doors for you. And, there are not that many books, or at least there weren't that many books in Slovak when I started, contemplating all of this. So I started looking for books in English. And basically I learn and study or read things in English. So that opened infinite possibilities for me, because there are so many podcasts, so many books, so many courses, so many of whatever you want. So I started
but that has to be
there.
Yeah, but I was thinking, sorry to interrupt there, because I love that idea. You put it out to language, which is in a way true, because English is a universal language and it can open those doors. But it also has to do with your mindset. If you are not inquisitive, if you are not chasing that knowledge, if you are not so much into personal growth, language itself is not going to do it. So obviously you had that in you. So what would you say to somebody that doesn't have that attitude, that has a more stay in the comfort zone kind of attitude? What would you tell these guys with this crisis that we're having now, another crisis? What would you tell them?
I'm sorry, but you're doomed. You're for a very, very difficult period of your life. I mean, I'm sorry and I'm being brutally honest, but I mean, taking into consideration how difficult it was for me, not having any financial background or like no discussions or whatever. I mean, my knowledge was zero. So, I mean, the only thing that saved me were those books and like going after information and learning and wanting to know more and more and researching. So, and also I think that one of the good things when it comes to me is that I'm not scared or I don't feel bad to ask for help. So, you know, I think that's an important thing, and I know that a lot of people, especially here in Malaga, are maybe too proud to ask for help. So,
I agree with that.
You're cutting yourself off all those wonderful possibilities. Like, if you don't want to investigate, if you don't want to ask for help, if you don't want to go to networking sessions or, you know, just the basic stuff, then you're preparing yourself for a very, very hard time, because it is difficult. It is difficult.
I absolutely agree. It's quite tricky to find people that are that open in different settings. There's this old paradigm of that you're supposed to be very strong and very knowledgeable and have all the answers, which is, in my mind, is the old paradigm. Is that would be this managerial perspective. You're a manager, you're not a leader. But when you are a leader, you're not afraid, as you mentioned, of asking those questions or actually saying, I don't have the answers. Let's find them together. What do you think, Valentina? Because I think, Valentina, Liski, you have a thought in there.
I have a kind of different opinion on this. I come from family of father entrepreneur. I've been earning my buck since I was 14. In Finland, it's customary to move out of the house and survive on your own at 18, 19. So all was there. But I was working many years in corporate world without taking the courage to leave it, because it was so easy to get that bulk sum drop onto your bank account every month. And it was so hard at the same time to see own value, because as entrepreneurs, we usually do things that inspire us that we're not used to ask money for. And nowadays, I coach some of the newbie entrepreneurs into these first steps, how to start asking money for your services. So I would say to anyone out there, if being an entrepreneur is a possibility for you, try to think of the smallest benefit you can produce to another human being. Put a price of it on it, be it €1 or €5, whatever, and go offer your service and ask money for it and see how you will feel throughout this process. And that could be the smallest steps you could take.
Thank you so much for that different perspective in there. Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope to have you back in our podcast very, very often. Thank you very much for being with us, and we hope to be with you very, very soon.